I'm Doug Beach. I'm a construction executive here in the Atlanta business unit for Turner Construction. Been with the company 27 years, held a number of positions along the way from operations to pre-construction manager, and I'm now transitioning into a role as a full-time design manager for the TEG group. And I've been involved with design build projects since 1998, and I've done almost a dozen of them in some form or fashion, either operationally or pre-construction wise. So it's a great building type, and I really enjoy being involved with them. And the reason why I enjoy the project type is you really you're integrated with the client a lot more than you are on a typical scene at risk. It affords you to see a lot of the design and a lot of that communication that goes on up front to understand what the client's real needs and program desires are that you may not see in a typical design bid build type scenario. So it gives you a lot more obviously risk, but there's a lot more reward on the backside of that, both financially as well as personally. As a design manager, one of the challenges that we have to deal with is making sure that we provide the client exactly what they're asking for in their program, no more and no less. As a CMR, you really don't run into that. You're really in charge of building what's drawn by the design team, making sure it's installed correctly. But as a design manager on a design build project, you need to make sure that what's drawn is what they really need and want, what meets code, and what really fulfills the program. We had a recent experience with a designer where we had a project that incorporated a bridge from our building to an existing building over a public roadway. Code required us to identify and not only maintain a minimum height over that roadway, but also identify what that minimum height was going to be. Signage is always one of the last packages that's designed, and in this case, the first scheme that our design partner came up with was very elaborate. They had stainless steel lettering and numbers. They were held off of the bridge face, they were backlit, and all of this, while meeting the code in the program, created a number of problems, both from financially, it was more expensive than we had thought and when we pursued the project. It also created maintenance headaches for the client down the road in terms of the lighting, as well as cleaning those numbers. There's also a liability if one of those fell off, went into the roadway, way down the road as the project is turned over, and even just the pure constructability and scheduling of trying to get that built and installed over an active roadway. So when we talked back through it with the design team, we came up with an alternate solution at the end of the day, which met code, met program, and was far more viable by just doing a highly reflective stenciled coating on that bridge, which really solved the problem, kept everyone happy, and was a good solution. One of the important things to think about in that scenario was the first scheme when it comes out, to make sure that that's internal to the team. We can't just show something like that to a client because they may become enamored with that, those great stainless steel letters and the backlighting, and it's really not in the program, and they haven't thought about their liability down the road, and they haven't thought about the maintenance headaches down the road. So we're there to make sure all that stuff gets vetted out, and we show the client what really fits the program and really fits their needs at the end of the day. As a design manager, there's a lot of things that are important. There can be no changes unless there's really an upstream programmatic change with the client. Even though there will be downstream changes with our subcontractors, we have to manage it just like a typical project with contingency. But we have to think about the variable, which is now the designer. And we have to make sure that we're treating them fairly and making sure they're not getting hurt in the design process. A lot of times we're not aware that they're doing additional services and things that cost them money in the whole process of the iterative design process along the way. So as an example, we ran into a project where after we were selected, the county we were working in adopted a new code. This required us to go rerun calculations before we submitted for permit. We couldn't get grandfathered in under the old code because we hadn't submitted yet. We were pretty clear with the client what code we were designing to, because that's something that you need to make sure you're on the same platform with that client. It's a different set of assumptions up front because you have to address not just the construction aspects of what you're building, but what you're building to from a design standpoint. We're actually able to go back to the client, get the designer's time compensated, although it was a small amount of money, but it kept him from getting hurt rerunning calculations for permit off of this new code structure.